Do you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Hello, everybody. This is Harold Green of Bright Tree Wealth Management. And it's time to stop doing what you hate. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic day today. I'm doing pretty good. I just kind of been wondering about some things here lately and working on some different things. And I'm at a point in life where I can take the company in one or two different directions. And so I've just kind of been thinking about that for a long time. And, I'll probably share it with y'all later. But right now, I want to talk about something that is kind of like a prevalent conversation in today's society. And it's like top of mind, top of conscience. And it's all about, the rich people taking everything away from the poor people and different things like that. And I'm going to tell you, some of the politicians we have right now, they're some of the most dishonest and disingenuous people that I've ever heard, seen, speak in my entire life. How do I know that? Because I can see what I can see. I can read, I can write, I can add, I can subtract, I can multiply, divide, fractions. When it comes to the higher level math, I didn't get there. But honestly, for me in my life and the way it's working out right now, it don't matter. It don't matter. So I want to talk to you guys today about a topic. And the title of my show today is it's Rags to Riches. And I want to give you the blueprint, if I may. And a lot of people think that no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, they're never going to get there. And that's not true at all. I'm going to walk you through how you can make this happen for yourself. You might got to listen to this show like 3 or 4 times. Okay. But I listen to my shows over and over again because I can learn something from myself because of all the experiences and things like that I've been through. And I remind myself that this is not by accident. Where I'm at right now, it's not by accident. It's by design. And the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. As a man thinketh, so is he or she or them, they, him, her, whatever. I don't care. So you're ready? 1, 2, 3, let's get it. Now, I want to talk about why some rise and the mindset shift that starts it all. And I remember, I don't know if I told the story before, but I was working in the corporate setting. And my job was to go out and review policies for people that had bought policies from this life insurance company. And I remember going to a doctor's office in downtown Honolulu, and the guy was pretty rude. And he just really looked down on me, and he was just saying, just kind of like underhanded stuff. And, sometimes you just want to punch people in the head, but, you're trying to get somewhere and you can't do that. You can't act out. You know what I mean? You can't act out. You know what I mean? You can't do the things and say the things that you want to say because, you're trying to get somewhere. And I remember I had this busted up car or whatnot driving down Honolulu. And I simply remember God saying, look, whatever you want out of life, if it doesn't exist, you got to create it. All right. If it doesn't exist, you have to create it. So the journey from rags to riches begins long before the money even shows up, right? Now, imagine starting from absolute scarcity. I mean, you ain't got nothing. Or as they say politely, you don't have anything. You're sleeping in cars, sleeping on couches, living paycheck to paycheck. And you have no clear direction other than robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now, some people, they accept that situation. And others, they mentally reject it. Like, I just tell myself, where I'm at right now is not where I'm going to be forever. This is temporary. This is temporary. I just kept telling myself all the time, this is temporary. This is not forever. It's short term. Things are going to change. I just got to keep hustling. Transformation begins the moment someone refuses to identify with their current circumstances. And I'm going to give you a roadmap to follow throughout the show. The first thing we're going to talk about is the psychology of poverty. The second thing is the identity shift successful people make. The third thing is the role of future thinking. Number 4, why opportunity becomes visible. And then some practical steps that, if you're listening carefully, you can start today. Now, let's talk about the psychology of poverty. And here's the main idea of this: poverty becomes psychological, not just financial. And there's something called learned helplessness. And that's like repeated hardship creates the belief that effort doesn't matter. And it's like failure, frustration, loss of motivation, and avoidance of risk. And some common environments where this develops are is like multi-generational poverty, like, my mom and my grandma, my grandpa, great grandparents, like nobody ain't had nothing. Or as they say, no one had anything. And unstable employment, like job to job to job to job. And then constant financial stress, constant fighting. And, we found ourselves in a survival loop when I was a kid, and that caused stress, right? I didn't even want to go to college. It was just so bad. And my mom was like, if you go to college, I'll pay for you. You can start at a junior college. And I had known for a while that my mom wanted to go back to school for nursing. I knew that. So I said, Mom, I'm just going to go get the GI Bill, and then I'll work my way up. And basically, the stress created the survival mindset, the short-term decisions, and then like the repeated struggle. And the opposite mindset, it learns resourcefulness, right? How to make it happen, because the small actions matter. Like if you get into a fight and you have to fight with a stick, you'll figure out how to use that stick versus looking at the opponent and saying, they're bigger than me, they're stronger than me, and all I got is this stick. And I'm going to stick you in the eye with that stick. Well, whatever it took. I'm scratch, bite, claw, whatever. My attitude was, I'm going to win. And that's the attitude you have to adopt. And daily improvement matters, right? They call that Kaizen in Japanese, right? Toyota came up with that thing. And then persistence matters. And behaviors often seen in people who rise look like this, right? They're always learning new skills. And they're saving small amounts, like every penny matters. They network intentionally. They're always going out of their way, meeting new people. They're always reading and studying. And they're always constantly trying to improve themselves. I remember when I was getting some designations and my professor said, you must become a lifelong learner. Okay. Learning, you never stop learning until the day you die. And here's a key insight. The people who rise are not always smarter. They're not. I didn't even graduate college. I went to college for a couple of years, and then I switched majors and stuff. And then finally I just dropped out. I had like almost 2 years to get a associate. And I was, married with 2 kids and trying to go to school and, trying to build a career in corporate and stuff. And it was just like, man, this is not working. This is not working. This is not getting me to where I want to be. Learning all this stuff does absolutely nothing for me. I was learning the wrong thing. And my life didn't really change until I start learning the right thing. And the people who rise, no, they're not smarter. They believe their actions will eventually matter, right? This is going to work. Hard work pays off. I kept telling myself every day, hard work pays off. Hard work. It was like a mantra I created. Hard work pays off. Hard work pays off. I didn't care, right? Now, the next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to switch identities. You're going to have to become, it's said like this: in order to have what you never had, you must do what you've never done. And you can say that in the reverse sense too. In order to be who you really want to be, you have to become someone you never thought you could become. That requires work. And there's 2 types of identity that I see people have all the time. They have the circumstance identity, like, I'm broke. I ain't got nothing. We don't have anything. We ain't like them other people. We ain't like them. They're smarter than us. They're a different skin color, right? They got that because they so-and-so's kids and so on and so forth, right? Okay. And then the future identity, I'm building something. And because identity is going to shape how you behave, right? I told my kids when they were growing up, I said, if you identify as monkeys in the grocery store, you will be treated like monkeys in the grocery store. I said, you are great children. That is your identity. That's who you are. And guess what? My kids, they behaved accordingly. We take our kids places. They wouldn't cry. They wouldn't scream. They wouldn't make noise. They wouldn't act a fool. Like, if a complete stranger would come and like pick up my son when he was a baby, like not a baby, but like a toddler, he wouldn't even cry. He wouldn't cry for his mommy. He wouldn't cry for his mommy. He wouldn't do that, right? We began helping our kids shape their behavior and their identity early. And you remember that guy, Chris Gardner, the one with the story with the, Pursuit of Happiness? He was homeless with a young kid, sleeping in shelters, subways, bathrooms, working through brokerage internship, right? He did not identify himself as homeless. He identified himself as a future stockbroker. You can identify yourself as a future real estate mogul. You can identify yourself within reason, because you got to have talent too. You got to have some kind of gift or skill or talent. And a lot of times what these people did is they tapped into that hidden talent, that hidden vein, that quote unquote blessing that God had on their life, man. And once that thing hit, it was all over with. And because he identified as a future stockbroker, he had identity-driven behavior. And future identity leads to discipline, preparation, persistence, long-term thinking, identity, behavior, results. That's what it is. And the next thing I want to talk about is the future self effect. And people who rise, they think about the future very differently. And this is kind of weird, but it's like the connection someone feels to their future self. Like, how can I say this? I saw myself when I was in my 20s differently than I saw myself when I was in my 30s. And, when I saw myself, like when I was in my 30s, I was looking like, who is Harold going to be when he's 40? And then when I turned 40, and it was like, well, who's Harold going to be when he's in his 50s? And I'm a much different person because I became that person. I was like, okay, who am I going to be when I'm 50 years old? Like, what is my 50s going to be like? How am I going to behave? How am I going to talk? How am I going to live? What will be my identity? And now I'm in my 50s. I'm looking out at my 60s and I'm saying, okay, dude, you're 52 going on 53. What is it going to look like when you turn 60? What do you want life to look like? How do you want to live? What are your goals? Like, what is going to, now you're going to have to start talking about legacy. And this is very important. Okay. Now, low connection produces impulsive spending, short-term thinking, and lack of planning. And if you have a very strong connection, that's going to produce saving, investing, skill building, and some discipline and a clear future for your vision. We're talking about 5-year direction. We're talking about 10-year direction. We're talking about 20-year direction. We ain't talking about like today and tomorrow, like what we're going to eat out. No, it's some of that, but you have to have a clear idea. And the areas you have to consider are very simple. Your income level, your lifestyle, skills, like what kind of skill do you want to have later on in life? I'm telling you, I could either be a preacher and start a church, or be a comedian, or go on a public speaking tour. Now, none of those things would be necessary, but it's like, okay, what do I want to do? And freedom, what kind of freedom do I want to have? What kind of environment do I want to be in? And here's a key insight. And people who rise, they often live mentally in the future before reality even catches up. Like we in here, you know what I mean? Like we in here. So if you think, okay, private jet mentality or whatever, you got to see yourself in that. When you start seeing yourself in something, then reality will catch up. And what begins to happen is pathways begin to emerge, right? I used to drive out to Hawaii Kai in Hawaii, where all the nice houses are, and this just nice area, reviewing people's life insurance policy. Then I ended up driving out there because somebody I met had a Bible study. Next thing you know, within 5 years, I was living out there, right? And then one of the condos I drove by, which is gated community, I saw it all the time. Next thing you know, I'm living in there. I've lived in 3 different units in that same condo. And my whole mentality was, why not me? Why not us? Why not now? Why not me? Why not us? Why not now? That was my mentality. And one of the things you're really going to have to pay attention to is your opportunity awareness. And the identity change alters what people notice, right? And it's a reticular activating system. The brain filters information based on importance, and attention follows identity, right? Here's a familiar experience buying a car. And then next thing you know, you start to see that same car everywhere until you do what I just did and you order one directly from the factory with everything you want in it, on it, that ain't sitting on the parking lot at the car dealership. And when you get it, everybody know that car ain't the same as everybody else's car, right? You do that for a while and you get to the point where when you get where you really want to be, you can do stuff like that. Mm. And then when somebody believes they're or becoming successful, they begin noticing business ideas, investment opportunities, valuable relationships, man, they just show up. God began to just bless you with great people. And then useful knowledge, not like just foolish stuff. The Bible says that the mind of the unwise feeds on foolishness, right? Opportunity was always present. What happened? The awareness changed. You got a key idea. Opportunity becomes visible only to prepared minds, right? If your mind is feeding on foolishness all day, what are you going to get? Foolish ideas. If your mind is focused on learning great things and just positive things, guess what's going to happen? Great opportunities are going to show up. They're just going to be all around you. And it's just kind of like, boom, I want this. I can do this. I can do that. I can go this way. I can go that way. Very important stuff. And now I want to get into wrapping up here. And I want to talk about a very practical blueprint that you can follow. And it starts with your daily actions that begin the transformation. I start my day with positive affirmations, positive confessions, whatever you call them. I'll say stuff like, today I will prosper and find good. This will be my best financial year ever. I accumulate massive amounts of wealth for my clients and myself through my strategy, right? I'm a winner. I'm not a loser. I'm happy, healthy, and whole. I say things like that, right? Because that's where I want to go. And here's where we need to do a little homework. Take out a piece of paper. And if you are not where you really want to be right now, here's a sentence that I want you to write down. Goes like this: I am becoming the kind of person who blanks. I'm becoming the kind of person who is kind. I'm becoming the kind of person who is diligent. I'm becoming the kind of person who is, whatever. Fill in the blanks. Here's some possible directions. I'm becoming the kind of person who builds wealth, who invests, who creates opportunities, not only for myself, but for others, who develops valuable skills. Identity influences your behavior. If you're in the grocery store and you act like monkeys, you're going to get treated like monkeys. If you're in society and you act like monkeys, you're going to be treated like monkeys. But if you're in society and you act like a gentleman, you will be treated like a gentleman or a lady. It's about your identity. Who are you? Are you happy with who you are? If not, who do you want to become? Very different. You got to have a future self-definition. You got to have a 5-year vision: income, lifestyle, career, skills, environment. Clarity creates direction, right? Micro win system, tiny daily progress. Tiny daily progress. Are we getting better every day? What are we doing? We're reading, we're learning, we're saving, investing a little bit more, we're networking, we're practicing something, we're working on something. Small improvements compound over time. And here's something that's very important, very important. You got to replace complaints with questions, okay? You got to shift from statements to solutions. You can't be like, I can't afford that, to how could I afford that? I don't even think I ever said I can't afford that. My thought process was, is this necessary or not? Is it necessary to help me get to where I need to be? Is it a tool or is it a distraction? Is it a tool or is it a distraction? And questions activate problem solving. And you also have to challenge limiting beliefs. I heard this so many times. You got to challenge your limiting beliefs. Common beliefs are stuff like, Harold, I'm bad with money. Anytime I get money, I spend it. And success is for other people. Look at them, man. I can't be like that. I ain't built like that. I ain't built like I ain't built like that. You know, I'm too late, Harold, to get started with retirement planning. It's too late for me. I don't think I have enough anyway. And many beliefs were inherited rather than chosen because it's how you were programmed, right? Our parents did what they knew, right or wrong. And I don't fault them for it because I'm a parent with kids and I do what I knew until I knew I had to do better. And then we started doing better because it was just, I read the Bible and the Bible says this is what life is supposed to look like. And I was like, okay, I ain't got that right now. So that was my identity, working on that, working on that, working on that. And in closing, I want to share with you this. Here's the key takeaway. The journey from rags to riches begins with identity. And there's a sequence of transformation. And it starts with like your identity, then it goes to behavior, and then it goes into skill, opportunity, things like that, right? And then that creates opportunity, and that opportunity creates wealth. And I want to share with you something here real quick, something that I read this morning in Proverbs chapter 10, verse number 4. It says, he becomes poor who works with a slack and idle hand, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. So when you start writing down who do you want to become, I would say start by saying I'm diligent, right? I'm a person who is diligent. I'm a person who is blah, blah, like that. And I want to talk about something that I may talk about in the future is like how people who start with nothing learn how to spot opportunities others miss, right? And the last thing I want to say to you is that your current situation does not determine your future. Your decisions do. And today, this was not about like, how can I retire early or rapid retire or anything like that? This was more about just kind of like your identity, because if I'm going to put it to you like this, investing, it can be very tough. Working with an investment advisor, it can be hard sometimes, right? There's good times in the market, there's bad times in the market because investments, they always carry risk of loss, right? You got to do your due diligence and then you got to invest according to a well-balanced, comprehensive plan. But if your identity is all over the place and you don't really know, you're not settled yourself, then your plan is just going to be just garbage because you're all over the place. Your plan's going to be all over the place. And it's hard for someone to work with you like that. So I really just wanted to share with you, you might not have rags. You might already be okay. But this show goes out to a lot of different people. And I'm always talking from, say, like a higher upper middle ground with people who have assets, because we take on clients with assets with $500,000 or more. And not a lot of people have $500,000. Some people will never say $500,000 in their 401k. They'll never see it because of the type of job they're in. And this show is more for those people to say, hey, look, you can get up here too. You can get up here too. It may require some changes, but you can become and have what you truly believe you can become and have. And I'll end it with that. So thank you very much for listening to today's show. Stay tuned. There's going to be some more episodes coming up. We're going to be talking about, is it an affordability hoax or is it an affordability crisis? Which one is it? It all depends on how you identify it. So thank you very much for tuning in to today's show. Until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.